Hello everyone, I'm Chris and I welcome you back to Muda, the YouTube channel about waste. I will be breaking down the 8 forms of waste, or Muda, into individual videos. Provide examples, ways to identify them, and ways to reduce them. For a brief introduction to Muda, check out my video on the link below. And on the meantime, let's continue with this one. There are 2 forms of waste that involve movement. There is motion and transportation. Motion involves movement within procedures and steps, and transportation is related with movement of a product or a component between point A and point B. Today's focus will be motion. Now, before I get in the types of motion, their effects, potential solutions, I will provide an example that I'm sure many of you can relate to. And that is changing the tire of a vehicle. You see, changing the tire is rather a simple task. The steps are easy to follow, and the tools are typically provided by the car manufacturer in the back of the trunk. Now, even though it's a simple task, there's a lot of motion required, and most of it is physical work. Now, I will present 4 scenarios where I will illustrate how motion can be reduced in order to improve your cycle time. For the first scenario, winter is over and summer is here, so decide to change from your winter tires to your summer tires and do it at home. In average, it takes a person 15 minutes to change 1 tire. All of these steps are performed by hand, and across all 4 tires, it should take you approximately 60 minutes to perform the job. That is without interruptions and without breaks. Now, in this scenario, time might not be a constraint. However, in the following scenarios, there is value to improve the process in order to reduce the cycle time. Scenario number 2. You are the owner or the manager of an auto shop, and you know that soon there will be an influx of customers who want their tires changed for the new season. Now, you understand that the quicker, faster that your workers can perform their tasks, the more vehicles that you can accept in a given shift. So you know that you cannot afford to spend 1 hour changing 4 tires in a vehicle. So you decide to invest in equipment to make it easier and quicker for your workers to perform their tasks. You also provide the necessary tools in their specific area so that your co-workers or workers don't have to waste their time looking around for the proper tools. Without interruptions, you may target 15 to 20 minutes per vehicle, and that includes getting the car, lifting the car, changing the tires, and putting the car back down and delivering it back to the customer. Because time means money in this scenario, there is value to you and there's value to the customer to reduce the cycle time. So by providing the proper tools, the proper equipment, and a designated area, you have dropped the time from 60 minutes to less than 20 minutes, nearly a 75% reduction in time. Let us take a step further in efficiency, and you can notice this in pit stops during a car race. Let's take a look at NASCAR, where every second counts and mistakes are highly avoided. You have a trained crew of 6 people instead of 1, with more engineered tools in order to do the job quicker. By doing this, you can drop your time to less than 20 seconds to change all 4 tires. So now we have gone from 60 minutes to less than 20 minutes to less than 20 seconds. But wait, it does not stop there. The last scenario, also involving racing, but with highly engineered and expensive vehicles. Each millisecond counts, and spending a half a second too long in a pit stop can cost you various positions. There's a lot of pressure and money at stake, and this is of course Formula 1. You have now a highly trained crew of about 20 people, each with 1 task to perform. And with this, you have a result of less than 2 seconds in a pit stop to change all 4 tires. That's pretty impressive. So you see, a simple task as changing the tires on a vehicle has so much waste that you may think it is part of the job. However, with the last 2 scenarios, it is clear that if you value time, there's a lot of improvements that can be done in order to reduce your cycle time. As you can see, one of the effects of excess motion is longer lead times, but another effect is potential injuries. Repeated motions such as bending, lifting, reaching, applying force can eventually cause to injuries. This of course leads to unhappy employees, and unhappy employees means unproductive employees. How then can you identify waste in motion? Ask yourself and your team what are unnecessary steps that you would change or remove, what changes will you do in a certain area or layout, and which changes would you give priority in order to improve your workflow. Be engaged in applying 5S in order to identify things out of place and set a standard layout and operating procedure in your work area. A typical mentality is, what are a few extra steps? And yes, when you look at them individually, they may seem negligible, but when you multiply it times the hours in a shift, the amount of employees that you have, and also the amount of multiple tasks they have to perform, then it all adds up to waste in motion, waste in productivity, and also lower efficiency. At the end of the day, is just wasted money and incurred opportunity cost. You can classify motion into two categories, small and big motion. Small motion includes activities within steps or procedures. For example, typing extensive emails, searching for files within a cabinet, applying torque to a screw, and reaching something within your arm length. Small motion is typically harder to recognize because a lot of people consider it part of the job. Now, big motion is easier to identify because it includes activities within a workplace or a layout. For example, having to walk to get a tool, having to lift something, having to reach outside of your arm length in order to get a component. And also, for example, let's say you are a salesperson and you have to drive around the area in order to visit your clients. With many people having to transition into virtual work, you can still find a lot of waste in motion. For example, unnecessary conference meetings or motions during meetings, handoffs in software development, having to click too many times in a website, causing a potential client to leave and search somewhere else, having to go through multiple layers of management to get a document approved, having to click through a chain of folders to get to the desired document, having to enter your personal information too many times in an application or transaction, having to spend time going through your inbox in search of an email. And there's many more examples. And still within an office, there is sufficient amount of waste in motion. And a prime example is given in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, where the main character, Chris Gardner, while working, he decides not to hang up between calls, not to go drink water in order to avoid going to a restroom, and he claims that he gains 8 minutes a day by doing so. So for someone who values his time, Chris Gardner looks for ways to reduce waste in motion in order to be more productive during his shift. Now, sometimes the time invested in identifying the waste and trying to reduce it is much higher than the actual savings that you get from your analysis or from your study. However, it is helpful because you will implement these lean principles into future procedures that will definitely help you improve your process. Now remember, lean culture does not focus on the short-term benefits, but rather on the long-term success. So what are ways to reduce this type of Muda? Create production-oriented areas, think clamp instead of screws. Also consider providing proper tools or better equipment in order to avoid injuries caused by small or big motion. Engage with the frontline employers and get their feedback. Apply 5S and also do value stream mapping in order to identify those value added and non-value added steps. Now caution, don't only just identify and label the forms of waste, but also target to reduce them. It is typical to say these are the areas where we have to improve and I'm done, but you have to also help everyone in order to apply them and be able to standardize and sustain those changes. So as always, I invite you to take a look at your process within your work, your business, or even your house and see how you can reduce waste in order to be more efficient and be essentially lean. So thanks for watching this video, and until next time, stay simply lean.